Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into a battle that's happening inside all of us all the time, the fight for our lungs. We're going to break down 4 of the biggest invaders and how they actually work.
You know the feeling, right? That little tickle in your throat starts, the cough follows, and your mind just races. Is this just a cold? Is it the flu? Could it be COVID or something else entirely? Okay, let's get into it.
So, to really get a grip on these illnesses, we've got to start with the battlefield itself, our lungs. They're doing this incredible, vital job every single second of every day, and they are constantly on the front line.
At its heart, it all boils down to this: gas exchange. I mean, this is what keeps the lights on, right? We breathe in oxygen that fuels every single cell in our bodies, and we breathe out the waste, which is carbon dioxide. And these respiratory infections, they are a direct threat to this beautiful essential process.
And here's the catch. The very air we need to survive can actually carry these microscopic invaders, so our respiratory tract becomes this direct highway for pathogens, letting them get straight to work messing up that critical gas exchange.
All right, so let's jump into our first head-to-head comparison. We're going to look at 2 viral rivals that, we've all become way too familiar with over the last few years: the seasonal flu and, of course, COVID-19. Now, at first glance, they can seem pretty similar, but the differences are huge. They're both super contagious viruses for sure, but the flu, man, that thing often hits you like a ton of bricks. One minute you're fine, the next you've got a headache, fever, muscle aches. COVID-19 can feel a lot like that, but it's got those telltale signs, right? Like that new loss of taste or smell. That's a huge clue.
And in those really bad cases, especially with COVID, the biggest danger isn't always the virus itself. It's how our own bodies can freak out. It's something called a cytokine storm. Basically, your immune system goes into absolute overdrive and just starts attacking everything, including your own healthy cells. It's literally like your body's defense system calls in a friendly fire airstrike on its own turf. Just devastating.
And that brings us to this word, pandemic. This definition is exactly why COVID-19 became a global crisis, while the seasonal flu is usually a more predictable, manageable problem. The SARS-CoV-2 virus was brand new. Nobody had seen it before. Our immune systems had 0 instructions on how to fight it, which let it just rip through the entire world totally unchecked.
And the result of that? Just look at this number. Over 6.8 million confirmed deaths around the globe. It's just staggering. It really shows you the devastating power of a brand new virus hitting a population that has no defenses. It's a brutal reminder of what can happen when we're caught completely off guard.
But, the story doesn't always end there with just the virus. Sometimes that first fight leaves our lungs weakened, kind of like a city with its walls breached. And that opens the door for a second, really dangerous invader to sneak in.
Exactly. Think about it. After this huge viral assault, your lungs' defenses are just exhausted. They're down. And that creates the perfect opportunity for other pathogens, especially bacteria, to launch a whole new second-wave attack on that already compromised tissue.
And that second attack often leads to this: pneumonia. Now, pneumonia isn't one specific bug. It's a condition. It's what happens when the tiny air sacs in your lungs get filled up with fluid and pus and all this other gunk from the inflammation. It literally creates a physical wall that stops oxygen from getting where it needs to go, into your bloodstream. So, this is how it usually goes down. It's a pretty grim sequence. First, a virus like influenza comes in and just roughs up the delicate lining of your airways. Step 1. Then, step 2, opportunistic bacteria see their chance and invade. That triggers this massive inflammatory response, and the lungs just get bogged down with fluid. That's step 3. And the final result, step 4, that critical gas exchange we talked about, it can grind to a halt. It's incredibly dangerous.
Okay, let's totally switch gears now. We've talked about these fast-moving viruses. Now, I want to talk about a completely different kind of enemy. This one isn't a blitzkrieg. It's a slow, silent, and incredibly patient invader.
I'm talking about tuberculosis, or TB. And this disease is both fascinating and, frankly, terrifying. It's caused by a very specific bacterium. It spreads through the air,
But its real superpower is stealth. You see, someone can be infected and have absolutely no idea, no symptoms, for years or even decades.
And this is why. TB has these two very different faces. First, there's the initial exposure. The bacteria gets into your lungs. Now, if you have a healthy immune system, it can often trap the bacteria, kind of wall it off. That's called latent TB. At this point, you're infected, sure, but you're not sick, and you can't spread it to anyone. But here's the scary part. If your immune system ever gets weakened, maybe years later, that bacteria can break out of its prison and reactivate. That's when you get active TB, and that's when you get sick and become contagious.
Okay, so we've looked at these different kinds of attacks, from the fast to the slow. So the big question is, what can we actually do about it, right? How do we defend our lungs? Well, the good news is we have a defensive playbook, and it's really, really effective.
So here it is, your defensive playbook. Think of vaccinations as your specialized training. They prep your immune system for specific enemies like the flu, COVID, and even pneumococcal pneumonia. Then you've got your basic drills, like washing your hands. Simple, but it stops those fast-moving viruses in their tracks. And finally, you have your core conditioning, things like not smoking and getting enough rest. That's all about strengthening your fortress walls, making it harder for any bad guy to get in, whether it's a secondary infection or a sleeping giant like TB.
When it comes right down to it, our best defense is knowledge. Understanding the enemy is half the battle. When you know the difference between a lightning-fast virus, a sneaky secondary infection, and a slow, silent invader, well, that empowers you. It helps you protect not just yourself, but everyone around you. So the real question is, are you prepared?